Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Below the 38 Football and Adventures in South Korea. And I'm delighted to say that we were on a bit of an adventure, certainly two of us at the weekend. My name is Andrew, joined as ever on this Monday night by Luke and Mike. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hello, hello.
I don't know what number podcast this is. I forgot to change the settings before we started recording here, but I think we're into number 20 or probably even higher than that at the moment. So congratulations on making it somewhere as far as here. Are you still enjoying your time with Below the 38? And now we've all done a match in the media section so far this season. Everything's going okay?
Yeah, yesterday was great. Lovely weather, nice people, good company. Football was all right, but we'll get to that later.
That's coming up. Luke was in Suwon yesterday, the other Suwon, the game that wasn't as good as the other game in Suwon. Mike had the day of, probably the best day of the year so far, 2026 for him. Again, he's definitely going to get stuck into that later on. As usual on the weekend we'll be discussing the results in K-League 1, K-League 2, the matches that we went to, and a small talking point, if we have time at the end of the show, provided this doesn't go on to 45 minutes. So let's go straight to the K-League 1 fixtures, even though none of us went to I was the only one who went to game in K-League 1 at the weekend, but I won't be covering the results of this one. Luke, take it away.
Yeah, so beautiful weather. It's a Saturday, everything's picking up, and there was only one 2:00 game on Saturday, which I don't understand. That's prime football time. The game was Gangwon. And it was more a talking point of the red cards in the game. There were 2 red cards on the stroke of half-time, one for each team after a coming together off the ball. In the end, Seoul won 2-1. They went 2-0 up, and Gangwon got a late consolation. So Seoul really going well in the league still, unfortunately. Gimpo have their first win of the season. They went to Bucheon and they won 2-0. It's a game that drops Bucheon down to 11th in the table now. Gimpo leapfrogged them, and Bucheon got a red card as well. It was Galego sent off, who we mentioned has been doing very well for Bucheon this year. So he's now set for a suspension. I'm not sure how many games he'll get, but it's not what Bucheon need. Finally, on Saturday afternoon, it was Incheon versus Jeju, and it was 1-0 to Incheon. Morgan Ferrier with Incheon's goal. He's got 2 on consecutive weekends now, after scoring at Bucheon last week. Really good game, back and forth action, and Incheon were able to nick it. I think either team could have won, but yeah, happy that Incheon did. Moving into Sunday, we have Jeonbuk versus Pohang. Speaking of back and forth, Jeonbuk took the lead in this game. Pohang scored a penalty. Iho-jae pulled one back. Jeonbuk took the lead again. Another Iho-jae penalty. And finally, in the 95th minute, Jeonbuk won all 3 points. If you talk about what's going well for teams, Jeonbuk scoring late on, that definitely sounds familiar. Now, down south, there was a game that some people suggested might not be as interesting as the baseball that weekend, but Gwangju shipped another 5 goals. That's 3 occasions they've conceded 5 in the last 6 games, and this time it was Anyang away from the Gwangju World Cup Stadium, 5-2 victors. I'm not really sure what's going on with Gwangju. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. They just seem to be losing confidence. It all started with their drubbing in Seoul, where they lost 5-0. They then conceded 5 goals on 2 separate occasions after that. It's just a sorry state of affairs. As for Anyang, I'll let Andrew handle that later. The final game of the weekend was another drubbing. Daejeon went 4-0 up away at Ulsan before Ulsan managed a consolation goal. The only cloud over the victory was an injury to Daejeon's Massa. He'd been playing really well yesterday, and he got caught in a collision with Cho Hyun-taek. He has a spinal injury, but apparently it's not as serious as first thought. Best wishes to him. Hopefully he feels better soon. Andrew.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, very ugly coming together in Munsu. But great news, as you said, on Massa. I think he released a statement on social media today on Monday, just assuring everybody's okay. Just want to go back up one of those games you mentioned. Jeonbuk 3, Pohang 2. were there any Judas's banners in the home end of that game? Because there were some former Pohang players on the pitch.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
It
I
doesn't
think you're
work
only a
that way,
Judas.
yeah.
You're only a Judas if you leave Jeonbuk, not if you join Jeonbuk from somebody else. It's only. I don't know. Maybe they can write in and tell us how it works.
Yeah. 14,000. I thought this was a big because I'm a little bit obsessed with attendances and crowds. There were 5,000 people at the Bucheon Gimcheon game, and there was only about 100. No, sorry. There's about 41 away fans at that game, I think I read today. So just over 5,000 home fans. That's Bucheon. But I just thought a crowd of 14,500 for a 2 p.m. start on a Sunday between two K-League rivals. I thought it was a very disappointing crowd, and I noticed today as well. I won't spend too much time dwelling in this, but apparently the crowd figures are down on the same period last season by almost 1,500 a game. That for me, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors versus Pohang Steelers is a marquee fixture in K-League 1. So I'm surprised to see just 14,500 people turning up at that game. The table, after all that, if you're an FC Seoul fan, presumably you already know this. You might even have a tattoo coming at this point. Comfortably ahead now. 8 points clear of Ulsan and 10 points clear of the champions, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors. They've only played 10 games so far, but 10 points is a big lead after... we're not even to May yet, but it's still a very, very sizable lead at this point of the season. And as we know, the classification in K-League is not goal difference. But Seoul's goal difference is 15. Gangwon have the next best on 4. But the two teams that are challenging, or supposed to be challenging, Seoul at the top of the table, Ulsan and Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors have goal differences of just +2. They've also scored 21 goals, Seoul, which is 4 more than Ulsan. They are in cruise control at the moment. They are absolutely dominating K-League 1 at the moment. As said, Ulsan are second. Jeonbuk in third, by the way. They have 15 points from their 10 matches. They're only 5 points clear of Bucheon, who are in 11th. And we tend to see this a lot when you're watching K-League 1. The teams that do well on Saturday just jump into the top half of the table. And then one or two of the teams that do well on the Sunday do exactly the same thing. Case in point, the weekend just gone by, Anyang have pretty much come from nowhere to suddenly be in 4th spot after 10 matches. So it's quite yo-yo-ish. But at the bottom, Gwangju are now getting cut adrift. They have only scored 7 goals, conceded 23, minus 16 goal difference. I don't know if you agree, but in my opinion, I thought this was going to be Bucheon and Gwangju 11th to 12th in whatever order, and they found themselves in that position, or those positions already. So it's definitely not good for Gwangju. Bucheon, as we predicted, their first season in K-League 1 has been very, very difficult. Anything to add to that before we go on to K2?
The only thing I will say is that with Bucheon, it doesn't really matter. So long as they're not bottom, they're safe. And I think that's the same for most teams who might struggle this year in K-League 1. So long as they're not bottom, then they don't even face a relegation playoff. Because obviously Gimcheon are going down, and whoever's bottom of the pile, if it's not Gimcheon, will be in a playoff at the end of the season. So 11th is as good as 6th, realistically.
Yeah, it'd be great. And again, they said, like, even if they finish 12th, they're not even going down automatically. They'll still have that the buffer of that relegation promotion playoff. Let's go to K-League 2, where all of the action was in Suwon, I think, in 2 different stadiums. There might have been a couple of other games that Mike wants to touch on. Let us know, Mike, where were you? And give us a rundown of some of the other results.
Send best wishes to Masatoshi, formerly of the Ansan parish. He was only with us for a brief spell, but he was magnificent. And a gentleman when he talked to us as well. So best wishes there, but as you said, let's go on to some proper football. Now we've got past that K1 stuff. So we said it would be a big one, and of course it didn't disappoint, did it? Possibly the game of the season, you might say, as 2 massive teams came together in Gyeonggi province. And of course, sorry, I'm not talking about Ansan's win over Jeonnam, more on that later. I'm actually going to talk about that barnstormer at the Bogbird, 3-2. So we said in the preview show that basically this was league leaders Busan's toughest fixture, I think, this entire season. If they could just get a draw, it would be, well, they'd be in a fantastic position for even the title. It seemed not to be, however, because of course the Blue Wings led 2-0 with just 20 minutes remaining, thanks to a Kim Do-yeon penalty and a Kang Hyun-muk goal. Until 3 minutes of typical Busan venom saw the scores levelled as Kim Hee-sung struck on the 72nd minute mark and Kim Jun-hong turned into his own net for Busan's second. So actually, only 2 goals for the Blue Wings from open play here. There was more chaos to come as a call for handball deep into injury time. There was a very lengthy VAR check, and again, it looks like VAR when you just watch. It looks like a penalty when you just watch the highlights. So why does it take that long? I don't quite get it. But Rice eventually stepped up, slotted home on 103 minutes, charging up the stairs to sort of dive into the Suwon crowd. We don't see enough of that in the K-League, and I did enjoy that. That was quite good. But Busan were not to be done, of course. This is Busan I-Park we're talking about. And they levelled again, only for the offside flag to go up. An offside call against Woo Ju-sung, who was trying to distract the keeper and probably did his job too well because, of course, a pretty fine goal, to be honest, and it looked like it was the winner, the way Busan celebrated. You had to kind of feel sorry for them. What an absolutely epic end to, quite frankly, an absolutely brilliant game, and what an advert you'd say that might be for the K-League, at least in terms of drama, etc. And I'm going to say, of course, Busan coach Jo Sung-hwan doesn't seem to have been best pleased by looking at the footage, but, I think we like to see that kind of passion more than not, rather than muted managers, so fair play. There were other games, of course, outside of the top 2. The great hope that was Gimhae's first win, well, it ended with them getting beaten 4-1 at Yongin, but never mind. Okay, that means now we can mention the K3 again, and of course the weekly Shihung Roundup. How did they do? Well, you guessed it, they won the 8th game out of 8, dispatching Yangpyeong at home 1-0. Busan Gyeotong are 9 points behind them in second in the K3, so sorry Gimhae, we didn't do so well against Shihung in the past, and they're coming back for you very, very soon, it looks like. And there was another 5-goal game as Paju gave up a 2-1 lead to go down 3-2 at home to Gyeongnam, with a brace from Daniel after Paju reduced to 10. Also in mid-table, Ansan dispatched Jeonnam 2-1, more on that later. And Cheonnam went 1-1 with Songnam, and Cheongju went 0-0 with Asan. Okay, let's get through this. But in the playoffs, some significant results. Suwon and Gimpo's 1-1 draw now sees them 8 and 9 points off automatic promotion spots respectively, albeit they both have a game in hand, but it looks like that top 2 is getting increasingly cemented. And a recently unbeatable Seoul Elan, the ones who were supposed to challenge that top 2, well, they had the biggest reverse because they went 2-1 down at home to Hwasong. That's a dent in their playoff hopes altogether. So they'll be looking to bounce back. And actually, just 6 points now separate Seoul Elan in 3rd from 12th place, which is the same as 3rd place to 2nd place in the league as well. So you could almost argue you can get closer to the relegation spots as you can to the playoffs in that current situation. But yeah, that playoff battle, it's really starting to be quite dramatic, and it looks quite exciting because you've talked about the K1 bouncing up and down. I know there's Champions League spots, but it looks like FC Seoul have sewn that up already. But with the constant changing of teams in the K2, it's just getting more intriguing week by week.
If you look at the table there, sorry, I was going to say, I'll let you come in a second, Luke. We're now down to just 2 teams out of the 17 in K-League 2 who have yet to record their first win of the season. Gimhae in 17th are one of those, 2 draws and 6 defeats from their 8 matches. And then Cheonbuk Cheongju FC played 9, won none, drew 7, lost 2, scored 10, conceded 14. If you look at their most recent form, you can probably figure out how this is going to go. Lost, drew. Extraordinary stuff. And then Daegu. There are 8 teams above Daegu in K-League 2 already, and there are 8 teams below Daegu in K-League 2. They do have a game in hand and the teams above them, but this is not turning out to be the season they were expecting. Since it got relegated, they've already moved on. Their manager, Daegu, are also very much in danger of being cut adrift, certainly from the top 2 spots. Luke?
I was just going to say, all of this tightness and closeness, and Eland losing, unfortunately. This next weekend of K-League 2 games, not to steal your thunder, I know you're doing a preview.
We have a podcast on this coming up.
I know, but I'm not involved. Can I just have a moment? I just think, it's going to be very interesting.
You miss K-League 2, don't you? You miss it.
I miss the drama. I don't miss the empty stadiums. But it's interesting because we have the Suwon derby coming up next weekend. We also have Eland versus Gimpo. So we have from 2 to 5, those teams all play each other. So it's kind of a derby, I think, with Eland and Gimpo. You might disagree. Suwon versus Suwon, definitely a derby, I think, by your parameters. And we also have Busan against Gimhae. So I think Busan have got the easiest fixture next week. But that's somewhat of a derby as well. But it'll be very interesting to see how the K2 table sits this time next week.
Do a butt each other's
okay, I'm done.
Cities.
You can have that as a derby as well, but I'm more looking at promotion rather than the mid-table.
Yongin hosts Songnam, which is probably it's good. I don't know if Songnam touches Yongin, but certainly it must be pretty close. Anyway, there's far too many games in this league, and I think Cheonan are playing Asan. The KTX derby also takes place this weekend. Over the Children's Day weekend, which is the weekend coming up, it's going to be full of local derbies in K-League 2.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And the Gimpo boys seem to be really up for the game next week after speaking to them, and they said that with Soliland losing at home, it shows that everything's to play for. And there's only 3 points in Gimpo have a game in hand, so if Gimpo win next weekend, they'll be level on points and have a game in hand over Eland. If Suwon FC can get anything, they could be in the same situation.
Luke, we get it. We're all in the same boat here. We're all Gimpo fans this coming weekend.
Okay. No. Well, they wear green. That's as close as you can get. They wear green.
Yeah. And the crest does look distinctly Celtic. It's a very strange looking crest for a team from the border, basically, of North and South Korea. Look, there we go. Paju Frontier, big loss for them, though. I think they were losing, winning, and then they lost it at the end. Another one of those games that took place in K-League 1 or 2 at the weekend where the lead just changed hand a bunch of different times. So the dropping of points there, and I think that was against Gyeongnam, wasn't it? That's a game that, it was a game that they probably thought they'd get 3 points of going into it. Had they won that game, they would have been up to 4th ahead of Suwon FC, and the fact that they were winning in that game and managed to chuck it away is quite extraordinary. That is Gyeongnam visiting Paju, I presume, is one of, if not the longest away journey in mainland Korean football. It certainly has to be up there with one of the longest ones. So anyway, lads, thanks so much for just giving us the rundown on how the K-League 1 and K-League 2, and a little bit of a look there at K3 as well, the inevitable Shihung update. We had a look at the tables, the games that we went to. We all went to a match this weekend. Might as well start with you, Luke, because you were doing media for Below the 38. You went to Castle Park on Sunday.
I went and enjoyed an afternoon in the sunshine. It's the first time I've been to Suwon FC and actually enjoyed a game. Incheon have a terrible record there. And by enjoyed a game, I mean it was good to watch and not be nervous about my team losing because my team weren't playing. It was a game of not much quality, not a lot happened. There weren't a lot of chances. In the end, I think a draw was a fair result. Suwon went 1-0 up with a brilliant finish from Willian, and then Gimpo equalised with a penalty midway through the second half. Not a lot really to report. There wasn't a lot of opportunity in the game. I spoke to Connor Chapman after the game to talk about Gimpo's situation with all of their away games and what it means for the team. And so you can catch what he said on the B38 YouTube channel. There's a good 4 or 5 minutes of him telling me what's happening with Gimpo this season. Check it out.
Connor Chapman loves a bit of mixed zone time. Good guy, spoken to him many times, I think, since he's moved to Gimpo. Very generous with his time. I gotta say, last couple of years I've gone on these podcasts or on the K-League United ones convinced that Gimpo were getting promoted. And at the start of the season, I thought, nah, they're not going to get promoted this year. They just lost Leonard Plana. The team looks like it's in need of massive regeneration. And yeah, this could be the season where they do go up, or certainly go very, very close to doing so. So yeah, check out @B38, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and you'll find interview with Connor Chapman. Mike, you were at Ansan Greeners 0, Jeonnam Dragons 4 at the WA Stadium. How was that?
I think that was in the betting odds anyway. But of course, your wish did not come true. And of course, it's been 11 months, but Ansan finally got that home win. It didn't look like it though, as we gave away a penalty in effectively the first 30 seconds. I think our captain just clipped a player in the box. It was clumsy and not how he wanted really to start the game. And then after that, the game was absolutely poor. It was just a dejection. Jeonnam sort of controlled the game and nothing happened. And it was just business as usual. Just what we're used to really. But then it happened from absolutely out of nothing. In fact, I was just still sat on my arm resting over a seat. But then Lima, from nothing, just smashed in one of the best goals I've ever seen live. I did not see that coming. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And then, just a few minutes later, Kim Yong-hwan found himself sent off for Jeonnam for a clash in the centre of the park. And of course, a straight red. It went to VAR and it seems like that was, I guess, the correct decision. However, Ansan huffed and puffed and simply couldn't find a way to score. It looked like it was going to end 1-1, and then I think finally put curtains to any optimism or hope we can have for the season. But the dream of finishing 8th or 9th is still very much on, because in the 95th minute, Kang Jong-hyun put his laces through almost like a standing static position from outside the box, and that went straight into the top left corner. Another absolutely worldy of a goal. His celebration was also fantastic, as he celebrated in absolute bemusement as what had just happened. I don't think he could quite believe it, nor could the crowd. Absolute scenes and a great bit of partying for us after that in the city. This might not come around again for another season, but we have a home win. And that's why you follow your team, I think. If you're not in the top 6 or the top 2 of a top European league, this is what it's like. Wins are rare, and you have to love it when you can.
I heard the winning goal. Actually, he shinned it. It deflected off a player, hit a bobble, and then kind of the wind blew it in. Is that not accurate?
You could argue that the wind plays a role in physics and all goals.
Can we confirm that Ansan actually win that game? Like, was anybody else there to verify this? Was there TV coverage of this? Are there highlights of this on YouTube? How can we be sure that Ansan have won a game?
Is this like when North Korea win in the World Cup? Is it that kind of thing? North Korea 6, Brazil 0.
Yeah, or walking on the moon. Yeah, look, send us in your answers if you believe Mike. Great. I was going to mention this. I probably shouldn't. It's a joke that maybe I presume a lot of people won't understand following this, but I did enjoy when Mike mentioned that Mass had only spent a small time at Ansan. I was going to say, isn't that what a lot of the fans do as well at Ansan Greeners? But I thought I should let that one go. Right, I was at a game on Sunday as well. Gwangju 2, FC Anyang 5, and yes, it is true. I did think this game was going to end 0-0. Before I showed up. Breno Herculano scored his first goal for FC Anyang. It's been a tough start for the Brazilian, replacing Bruno Mata, the big boots of Bruno Mata. He was on the bench midweek against Ulsan, but he got the start against Gwangju, and he's repaid manager Yu Byung-hoon with his first goal in 20 minutes. Talismanic midfielder Kim Jong-hyun made it 2-0 just before half-time, and he did that obligatory celebration when your partner is about to give birth. He put the ball up his jersey and then started sucking on his thumb. Thomas Wedekute, fresh from his interview with B38 on Wednesday, made it 3-0 before the break, and that looked like it was the end of that. But Moon Min Saw, a very good young player for Gwangju, he pulled back 2 in the space of 4 second half minutes just before the hour mark, and it was incredibly tight in the away end for the remainder of that game. For me, it felt like it was inevitability that Gwangju were going to score a third. And if they did score a third, would they give themselves enough time to go on and actually win the game? The lack of confidence that they've been showing for pretty much all of the season, certainly after the first 4 matches, was not evident during that very impressive rally midway through the second half. But Kim Un came off the bench, scored with 5 minutes to go to make it 4-2. That was the end. And Ayrton, who had a really good game for Anyang against Ulsan midweek, a very pacey winger, he made it 5-2 in the 96th minute. It's not too often you get to see 7 goals in a game of football. Anyang, it's hard to know what to make with that because, as Luke said earlier on, conceding, it's quite a regular occasion now for Gwangju to concede 5 goals. It's not really that special anymore if you're on the opposite end of that. Teams should probably go looking for 6 or 7 now just to create a little bit more history there. But a really good win for Anyang. They needed that, moves up to 4th in the table. But it's a good time to talk about Gwangju. And this is one of our talking points for today because it's not that long ago, Mike, you and I were at the Seoul World Cup Stadium for the Korea Cup final when Lee Jong-hyo, having led them to the semi-finals the previous year, led them to the first ever Korea Cup final against Jolla rivals John McKeown Motors, who had already won the K-League 1 trophy. They were looking to win a league and cup double. The feeling on the ground at the time was that Gwangju were harshly treated by the match officials. I don't know if that we just had, we just basically weren't wearing green tinted spectacles at that match. But to see the drop off from a team that finished 3rd in K-League 1, FA Cup semi-final, FA Cup final, quarterfinals in the Asian Champions League, it's a very, very disappointing. It's very sad drop off from them because, and certainly in that first half, I don't think I've ever seen a team play as badly as that in K-League 1. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? I mean, do you care that much about it? To be brutally honest, do you have any sympathy for Gwangju? Who would like to go first in this?
I'll go. I mean, I think we've all been saying for most of the season that we expected Gwangju to struggle. Given what's happened to them over the winter, it's going to be difficult. And given the situation at the minute where we're playing like midweek games as well, they don't have a very deep squad, and so going into the summer now, going into this spell of having lots of games, it's going to be really difficult for their players, and you've got to imagine that morale is pretty low. The World Cup break's coming up. I don't know if that will do them any favours because they'll have longer to wait, likely, to rectify the situation. But I feel for the manager that's come in. I feel for the players who are still there. I feel for the fans. But that's the harsh reality of things. They moved from their temporary stadium, which I think was a better fit because it was small, but they filled it, or they filled most of it, and so you actually had an atmosphere at the Gwangju games. They've moved back to the World Cup Stadium, and it's absolutely cavernous. And when you're getting a few thousand fans and everybody's spread out, it creates zero atmosphere. It creates zero motivation for the players. And I mean, I've been to both grounds. I went to the Gwangju auxiliary pitch. I'm not sure what they called it when they were playing there, but the training field with temporary stands, I went there. And it was much more of a football atmosphere than when I went to the Gwangju World Cup Stadium last. And there was about 2,000 fans, but they were so spread out. You could individually count them, but you couldn't hear anything. I mean, you could hear the players on the pitch. And I don't know. I think the move back to the World Cup Stadium has killed any motivation. It's killed any momentum that they had following on from last season. And I just think that they're going to go down, and they're going to be down a long time. I see them doing a Songnam or a Gyeongnam, to be honest. I don't know how or what they're going to have that's going to build them back up, because there's no money. I mean, Gwangju's a baseball city. Gwangju's not a football city. And I mean, that was evident this weekend if you compare the crowds at both games. It's sad. And I mean, it's sad when this happens to any club, with the exception of like Sheffield Wednesday.
Mike, poor Sheffield Wednesday.
Never poor Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay, I'm not getting involved in any Steel City commentary, but a team has to go down. So you can have sympathies, but someone's got to go. And I've not been to a Gwangju stadium actually, so I'm quite looking forward to it next season. Let's be frank. But seriously, when they pulled 2 back against Anyang, it seemed like, is this the corner turned? And then it's like they remembered they're contractually obliged to concede 5 goals. And that actually made it look even worse. It looks like a team that looks doomed. It looks like a team that would not be finishing anywhere near the playoff spots if they were in the K2 right now either, to be honest. And as I said, we've said it's a good time for Bucheon to be in the K1 because of the reduced relegation jeopardy. But conversely, it's a terrible time to get relegated to the K2 because that league is becoming exceptionally chaotic and it's going to get increasingly difficult to get out of in the future. You might start seeing K1, K2 yo-yo teams as the K1 kind of cements itself economically and grows larger. And I think, Gwangju might be looking at being pretty much doomed to stay down. I don't see how they would be. I don't see how they get up out of the K2 after what's happened this season so far.
It's amazing to think though as well that they could go on to be the worst team in K League One history this season. I mean, I haven't gone through the record books. I don't know if that's possible, if that's how it could end up playing out to be. But it still doesn't even guarantee them relegation. They still, even if they finish 12th, anything could happen. 2-legged playoff, away first, home second. They could be playing against a team like Seoul Eland or Daegu. Maybe they get a guy sent off early in the first leg. Gwangju go win 2-0, and that's it. They stay up no matter what has happened for the previous number of months. It is kind of extraordinary. It's like the thing that Luke was saying before about perhaps like allegiances. I said this before we came on there as well, that one of the things I always really admired about Suwon FC is just they seem like a really well-run club. Now, I know they did get relegated last season, but they got relegated from 10th. Like they weren't even the worst team in K League One last season. They just came up against a really motivated Bucheon over 2 legs, but they recruit really well. They recruit managers really well. They make the best of what they have. They exceed expectations, and Gwangju have been doing that for a number of years now. And perhaps it's just one of these situations where it just eventually catches up with them. Before we go, I think Mike wants to talk about the WK League as well. Gwangju have 5 matches before the World Cup break. They play Daejeon at home, potentially revitalised Daejeon after they destroyed Ulsan away. They then go to Jeonbuk, to Jeonju, to face Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors away. Gangwon at home. Gangwon, I know they're beaten by Seoul, but they're a very decent team at K League 1 level. Then they welcome FC Seoul, the runaway leaders, and they finish up on May the 16th against Incheon United away. Incheon are probably looking for some revenge. They are the only team to be beaten by Gwangju so far this season. You're looking at that run of fixtures and you're thinking, at best, 3 points from the game against Gangwon. I would have thought that's probably the best that they can expect. WK League, Mike, before we can wrap up
this a little bit on last week's preview show. Hopefully you've been checking into that. But we said it was actually a big weekend there. Reigning champions Hwacheon, they had to arrest Incheon's 100% record to have any chance of keeping in sight of the top 3, and they very nearly did before Incheon equalised in injury time. But Mungyong Sangmu also lost the 100% record at home to Gyeongju, and with Suwon winning, that means the top 3 are all just separated by a single point. So actually, at least the top 3 there is quite intriguing in the WK League. So that's a wrap there.
Great stuff. Thanks for that. We keep saying this, certainly amongst ourselves. We really want to get more WK League content on Below the 38, and we will definitely start moving in that direction as the summer rolls around. But that's it from Luke, Mike, myself, Andrew. We are Below the 38. We take you there. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.